Hello again, live from the bedroom, episode 12. This is Frank the Taper here, and today we third coated the other side of the bedroom. As you can see, the corners and the ceiling, the other side, right? All third coated. You can tell, it's starting to dry up. You see gray spots, leveling. Everything is looking good, the nails and stuff. Next step for this room in the process would be to come in with my stick sander and sand the room down, lightly sand it, especially the edges, not get any cheese or any compound off. Come in with my light and shine it on the wall. Make sure everything looks good. If it needs a little touching up, sometimes you do miss spots. That's just the reality of it. Then you touch it up and you move on. Then it's ready for primer. Now in the bathroom here, I saw the third coating on the bottom, cross seams, right here. See, we did this. Okay, we third coated that. See, the edges, right? What did we talk about before? You always go wider than the previous coat. So the seam doesn't need any compound in the middle, but it needed it on the edges. So it's more level and it's more full. Same thing with the corner. That's second coated above, and that's third coated on the bottom. See the lines all filled in? See? It's all solid in there in the corner. That's what you want. And the same thing over here. Bottom cross seams, nails, corners. Now, next time I come in, I'll sand that bedroom and get that prepared. Then I'll come back in here and second coat the beads, the bottom of the beads, whatever's left, and then go back up onto the top. And then do the same thing in the bedroom, the same exact style, same exact way, nothing really changes. It's just, we're very repetitive. That's it. It's just the same thing over and over again. More mud, every coat wider than the last one. Right, that's a third coated corner right here by the window and the old toilet. And that's all second coated up there. That's third coated right there. You see the difference, huge difference. So with that, that's the next thing that's gonna happen in this bathroom. In the process of taping it from beginning to end. So back into the bedroom where we'll come in. Now, before you sand it, everything has gotta be dry. Everything, or else it'll sand the mud right off. These corners and stuff, they got to be pure white. Can't be no gray. You can't sand it because you'll mess it up. So now it's in the afternoon, and so I'm going to give it 24 hours to dry with the fan on in this room, and it should. And if it doesn't dry, let's say it needs another day to dry, well, that's fine. I'll go work in the bathroom. So it's really no big deal, a day, but it has to be dry to sand it. It has to be completely dry. So, or else I'm not gonna, sand half of it and do the other half. I'm gonna sand down and touch it up if it needs one shot, so I don't have to waste any time. And I'll go in the bathroom and start preparing that. So that's the short of it. This is episode 12. Stay tuned for episode 13, where I'll show you the sander and believe it or not, sanding is a necessary thing. People say, well, I don't have to sand. I just scrape and everything. Listen, I was a union trained taper in New York City. Union trained taper by the best people that worked in the city at the time. And if you showed up on the job and you didn't bring your sanding pole, they sent you home. So don't think that, if you hear people say, well, I don't need to sand, I don't need to, look, the painter sands, all right? It leaves the best finish. You have to, but you got to know how to do it, because you don't want to sand all the mud off the walls, putting all this compound on the wall, and you're going to sand it off because you don't know what you're doing? No, you just glide over it, and you really concentrate on the edges, so all the paint and the primer just blends in. You just run it along light. You don't sand heavy. That's why you pull multiple tight coats. so you don't have to sand like crazy. Some people, they glob it on and they sand it all off. And then they wonder why their arm hurts and does it make a big mess and this and that. It's very lightly sanded with either 80 grit sandpaper or 100. 80 or 100. That's either one. 100 sometimes works pretty good. Might be a little light. 80 in the beginning might be a little rough, but usually standard 80 grit. And if 80 you feel is a little too rough and your job is already like mine here, nice and smooth, 100 grit will be fine. And then you just rub it down, but there's a certain way to do it. Certain way to do it. You don't want to take all this hard work by putting all this mud on just to sand it all off. And any painter that comes in, if you don't paint your own work, which I frequently don't, I usually give it to the guys that paint my stuff, and painters always sand. They always rub it down themselves just to be sure. So you don't have to go that crazy. You just got to make sure it's good for the painter, and if they want to look and sand a little bit, they can. They always do. That's just the way they are. But you try to leave it as clean and beautiful for the painter as you can. So there you go. That's what we're going to do in episode 13 coming up. Stay tuned.